probably any coach you talk to can tell you about somebody who's amazing in the gym, right? They're talented, they're gifted, they're quick, they're athletic, they pick it up like a sponge. They're playing with everybody and sparring like it's a joke. And then you put them in an actual fight and they just crumble, right? Or alternatively, somebody in the gym is okay. You know, they work hard, but they're not that gifted. And you put them in and you're like, whoa, who is that? Training and fighting are different things. Not everybody is a fighter.
My guest for this episode is Steve Mills. Steve is an Arjan and a Grandmaster Chansadeth Chantanao, co-founder of 5 Point Academy in New York City, a former USMF Team USA Coach, a WKA USA Team Coach, and a StrongFirst Certified Senior Instructor. In this episode, we talk about Steve's journey through Muay Thai, from training and competing to becoming a coach. We also discuss the mindset of a fighter, what it takes to prepare someone for competition, and how strength training can support martial arts without taking away from speed, timing, and skills. This conversation is about fighting, coaching, and building strength that serve the arts. Let's get started. Hello, Steve. Welcome to the Shugyō Podcast.
Hey, Swire. Thanks for having me in today. I'm excited to see what we talk about, actually.
I'm looking forward to this episode. There are so many questions that I want to ask you and so many advice that I think you can offer to the listener. But let's start all the way from the beginning. Tell us how you first discovered Muay Thai.
Sure. Accidentally. I moved to New York in like 1988, I guess, for grad school. And I was working to pay my bills, my rent, my tuition, stuff like that at a nightclub. And my bar back came in talking about this thing he had done and how much fun it was and how much he loved it. And I asked him about it. He said, it's called Muay Thai. And he told me a little bit about it. I said, wow, that sounds cool. It's too bad I'm too old. At that point, I was already 26. 27, something like that. And he said, oh, you're not too old. Come check it out with me. So he took me actually to the old Gleason's boxing gym that was in Brooklyn. And we trained for about 2 or 3 hours. I had a fantastic time. My technique was horrific. I tried way too hard. I wasn't used to hitting, kicking, being barefoot on cement, any of that. I skinned my knuckles, I bruised my feet, I put blisters on the bottoms of my feet. It took me 2 hours to walk from the subway stop. It was about a half mile from my apartment at the time because I was hobbling along. But it was so much fun, I couldn't wait to do it again. So I don't know, something about it, I just really loved it. So I started going with him to his teacher at the time, who is a guy named Phil Nurse, who your listeners may have heard of. He also was a UFC coach for a while. I was enjoying it. At that time, Phil actually didn't live in the United States. He was back and forth between England. So he'd come for a few months, then go back, come for a few months, and go back. So it made it really hard to advance. Not his fault. It's just, he wasn't there consistently. So I would go on my own to this other boxing gym called Julio Rivera Boxing Gym that was on the Lower East Side of Manhattan and just practice, trying to get better. And one day there was a guy in there just wailing away on the bag. And I said, wow, that guy knows what he's doing. And I went up to him. I said, hey, I don't want to bother you. I said, you seem to have some experience in this. And his name was Edge Brown. He was another Englishman, but he actually was an expat that lived and worked in New York City. He had trained with one of the first Thais to bring Muay Thai from Thailand to the UK, a guy named Master Toddy. I said, hey, would you mind working with me? And he said, nah, I'm just here to train and, stay in shape. I went, cool, okay. So I kept training and he was there. And a few weeks later, he came up to me and said, all right, I'll work with you. And I said, great, thanks. And later on, after we worked together for a while, it came out that he was just bored with hitting the bag and he wanted to train somebody up so he had somebody to spar with. So I was just in the right place, right time. I lucked out, and Edge actually had been a champion fighter, had a lot of experience, and I had him all to myself, which was fantastic. I can't really explain exactly why I loved the sport so much from the moment I started it. Something in it just like appealed to me. And I was in grad school at the time, and I said, you know what? I'm never going to have another opportunity like this. So I'm going to go to Thailand and train.
Wow. How many years of training when you decided to do that?
At that point, I'd probably been training for about a year.
Okay.
I went to Thailand, and your younger listeners won't understand what that means. But at that time, there were no cell phones, no internet. Do
you know people, or which gym you're going to train in?
There was a very small group of people in the New York area, I think 3, who had previously been to camps and trained. And they recommended I try this place, GD Gym, because at that time, a lot of Thai trainers didn't want to train non-Thais. And if they did train them, they didn't want to teach them everything because they had kind of a split thinking about it. They were very proud of Muay Thai. They thought of it as like Thai gift to the world, but at the same time, they didn't want anybody to be better at it than they were. So very often, trainers would teach you some things, but not everything. Crew Jitty at that point was known for training anyone who wanted to learn. When I was at the camp, so I went to Thailand, I went to the camp, I lived at the camp. I was there for 3 months. I was the only American. I might have been one or two Westerners. The other guys were German, many Japanese and Thais. I just went because I liked it and I wanted to get better. So I was doing 2 a days. You get up every morning and you run, and you do morning sessions with pads and clinching. The first week, my neck was so tired, I had to hold my head up in order to eat.
Wow.
And yeah, I just trained and I loved it, and I learned and I got better. And since I was working hard, Crew Jitty and the other trainers were kind enough to take an interest in me and just teach me the best they could. And I'd been there about 2 months, and Jitty walked up. He said, "Hey, you have a fight in 2 weeks." And I said, "I think you're mistaken. I'm here because I do this for fun, and I just want to do it for fun." And at that time, Thais didn't train Muay Thai for recreation or fitness. They trained it if they were going to be fighters. It was a way for particularly people from the northeast of the country, which is Isan, a poorer area, and from the far south. It was a way for them to, live and buy a house for their parents and feed. So they were like, "Yeah, no, you train, you're going to fight."
So they just signed you up?
He just said, "Hey, no, you have a fight." And I said, "All right, I don't know any better." I think that's a recurring theme in my Muay Thai journey is opportunities show up, and I'm either, I'm too ignorant to say no. So
were you scared, or you just say, whatever?
I didn't know enough to be scared. I trained, I had no idea. I mean, you've done sparring, but sparring's different.
Have you at least looked up who you were fighting?
Oh, there's no way to do that at that time. Just said, "Hey, you're going." I said, "All right, cool." So it was in southern Thailand at Choeng Stadium. They sent 2 trainers with me. It was me and 2 other Japanese fighters. We took overnight bus. We got to the day before to the venue, did some more training. And then I found out I was fighting a Thai who had 100-something fights.
Wow.
I still didn't know enough to be scared. There was no you're going to do an amateur fight, move in. It was full rules, pro fight.
So he is a pro, and then you just walk in.
I didn't know any better, and that's the way things were done. So I said, sure, cool, whatever. So I did the fight, and I lost, no surprise. But it was competitive. It was close. I got very, very lucky. In like the third round, I caught him with a cross and stunned him. I almost managed to knock him out, except I learned a very important lesson. If you don't breathe, it doesn't work very well in a fight. I was so excited and so inexperienced that when I started flurrying to try and finish him off, I realized that I'd been holding my breath, and I just kind of ran out of juice, and I had to back up, and the fight went on. He kicked my leg repeatedly because he was smart and I wasn't blocking it. By the end of the fight, you really couldn't tell a difference in my leg from my ankle to my hip because it was all swollen and the knee was locked up. I went after the fight to dinner with my coaches, and then we went back to the hut we were staying at. At some point during the night, I tried to get up to go to the bathroom, and I passed out because I was just so exhausted between the exertion and adrenaline and pain and whatever. And I was laying on the floor, and my one coach, Jack, he woke me up. He said, Steve, it's okay. You lost, but you fought good. You can sleep in the bed. And I thought it just killed me. It cracked me up.
Were you thinking, or are you just so tired that you don't really have time to reflect at the first night?
The only thing I thought was I had never had more fun in my life.
So you loved it.
Yeah, I loved every minute of it. It was painful, and it was it's just I don't know. Something appealed to me about it. The art itself, the competition, whatever. So we took the bus back to Bangkok. GD said, hey, I heard you did great. We're very proud of you. I was like, but I lost. And he was like, yeah, but you fought really well. And that was a huge thing for me because my experience I played hockey growing up and baseball growing up, although honestly, I wasn't a very good baseball player. I was an all right hockey player. But if you lost, that was the thing. But they were just very, very intent on the fact that I had trained hard, fought my best, made a good showing, hadn't given up, and they were super proud. So it was a long journey from the camp. I had to take a bus and a canal boat to get to the main post office because at that time, that's where you had to go to get an international phone. So I did that the day we got back to the camp, and I called Edge Brown, my trainer in New York. I said, hey man, I had a fight. And he goes, what? You had a fight? I said, yeah. I said, and I want to keep doing it. So he went, great.
Let me ask you a question. So I know that a lot of Thai fighters, as you mentioned, they do this for money, right? Some of them need the money. But hearing you talk about it, you don't need the money per se, but you love it. That's why you're doing it. So how do you think the mindset different is? Like they probably in for the money, you're in for the fun, and then for the interaction, right? For going on in fight.
I think those aren't exclusive things because you will talk to many Thai fighters and coaches who love the sport and love the art. But their motivation is different. There is a golden age. The golden age in Muay Thai was like mid to late 90s. It was kind of like the heavyweight boxing in the 70s. There were great fighters who fought each other all the time. Anyway, there's a golden age fighter named Koban who was in New York for a while, and he had said something sometime to some of his students, and I happened to be there to hear it. He said, you're never really going to understand it when you fight. He said, you fight because you want to. He goes, I was fighting because I had to in order to eat. And it's a very different sort of motivation. And he's right. But they're not exclusive things. I think most of at least the very great fighters and coaches do it because they also love it. Yeah.
So from, doing in a fight, you could see people who need it for the money, but some of them is the love of the game. So do you notice like any difference in their skill set when they actually fought, or when you encounter an opponent? Do you notice a difference for someone who loves to be there or someone who needed the money, that's why they were there?
Yeah, I don't think I ever fought anyone who didn't seem to want to be there. I think it, I mean, yes, people are trying to eat, but also they're there, at least in my experience, because it's something that means something to them, appeals to them on some level, and they want to do it. I'm sure that's not true of everyone, but in my experience, that's who I've met. Yeah. Yeah.
So from your competing career, how many fights did you end up doing? Is it only in Thailand, or you did some fights in the States, right?
Yeah. So I was very lucky in my timing. So at the end of it all, I ended up with 30 pro fights, which for a Thai is nothing. And it was like a running joke at the camp that I was having my first fight.
They have hundreds, and they're 18.
Well, and when they start, it was a running joke that I was having my first fight when I was 27, and they thought it was, hilarious because many of the guys are getting ready to retire then. But I lucked out in that I met Edge at the moment I did. There wasn't much going on in the United States. Was behind the rest of the world in terms of exposure and development in Muay Thai, and I think it's fair to say that it still is. I mean, the Thais very clearly are still accepted to be the best, generally speaking. Japanese, for a very long time, have spent a lot of time training Muay Thai and living and training in Thailand. The Dutch, the English, former Soviet republics like Belarus has a huge program. I got to fight in Belarus. But the United States has lagged. I was lucky in that Edge, my coach, was connected to the circuit in England and Europe. So he was able to get me, and then there were a few other guys that we got along the way too. We had a small group of 6 fighters that all trained together. So he was getting us fights, international fights, almost from the very beginning. So I got exposure to like an elite level right away. It was a very sink or swim sort of strategy. And luckily, most of the time I was able to swim. I don't think I fought in New York until I'd already been fighting like 3 or 4 years, just because there was nothing going on. And then when I did start, it's because Edge made an effort to approach a gym owner in New York about starting a promotion there called Friday Night Fights, which eventually I think became the longest running promotion on the East Coast. But yeah, he managed to get me fights because of who he knew. And also for a promoter, they could be like, oh, we have an A-class fighter from the United States, which there weren't many of. So then they could have an international card with, representation from all over the world. So
what are some of the things that, looking back, that you have learned from your competing career? Like, do you think you mentioned the right place at the right time, but I'm sure that you are being kind and being humble, right? You probably miss out a lot. Probably your work ethics, and then probably your, the way that you pick up skills are quite extraordinary. That's why, your coaches look up on you.
Yeah. So I love training. Very often there are fighters who enjoy fighting but don't love training. So the training becomes something that they have to do for the fighting. I loved training. I always have. I still do. I still train.
How many hours or how many times a day you train back then?
So if you had a fight coming, you had a fight camp. That's in a perfect world, about 8 weeks long. And you would do 2-a-days, 6 days a week. So you would get a run in the morning and then a training session of a couple hours, right? You do bag work or pad work, drills, whatever. And then you'd have a session later in the day, which would be more intense. You'd skip and pads or sparring, more bag work, clinch work. So, yeah. Now, if you didn't have a fight coming, you had a choice. Some people would really cut back on training, which to me always seemed counterproductive, because then when you had a fight going, you had to ramp it all up again. And in many cases, it meant you had to cut a lot of weight. And who wanted to do that during fight camp? I wanted to be like training for the fight, not dieting and losing a lot of weight.
Mhm.
So I would keep training if I didn't have a fight, not 2-a-days, but I would still be doing my runs and my skipping and my bag work and my pad work and clinch and sparring. You know, you just stay with it, because those times when you don't actually have a fight coming up are the times you can actually like work on improving things you're not good at. You have a fight coming, you need to focus on the fight. But if you're training with, the freedom and leisure to work on things, then you can work on stuff that needs improvement.
So you actually review with your trainer, your coaches for each fight. Were you guys filming that back then, or how would you review and improve the skills that you wanted to work on for the next fight?
No, very little filming. And, there wasn't, people didn't, if you wanted to film, it was a big deal, right? You needed to have a camera, like an actual video camera. In fact, when I went to IMTF, the World Championships in Bangkok, the year after my first fight, as part of the US team. And one of the coaches brought a camera to video.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, you can't even imagine how big it was now. It was like this big, and she had to carry it around, had its own giant suitcase of its own. So no, there wasn't a lot of video done. There was a lot of, again, I was lucky, right place, right time. I got to have a lot of one-on-one time with my coach, who was an experienced elite champion of in his own right. So I got to improve from that, because I had a lot of that. And then when we got, a few more guys, it was the same thing. We were a very small group. Everybody was working to get everybody better, and everybody pushed everybody. So, yeah.
So it was a good environment to be in. So they maybe saw something that they think you could better. So on the next fight, on the preparation, the fight camp, then they drill you on those technique. Yeah.
Yes. Or what? The other thing is something you didn't do particularly well in your previous fight. It's like, wow, man, you really got to study. You got to work on that.
So let's fast forward a little bit. You became a coach after your competitive career. How did it make that transition? And is it something right place at the right time again, or do you really want to be a coach yourself?
No, again, it's something I fell into again. So we were, my business partner, Simon Burgess, my business partner now at 5 Points, is a transplanted Englishman. And when he came to the United States, his coach from back in London told him to try and find Edge Brown, my coach. So he did. So he became one of our training partners, and excellent technical fighter. But one day Edge came up to us and he said, "Hey, I got a phone call from this guy at this thing called Crunch, and he wants us to come teach some sort of class. They're big on innovative group fitness. So you guys go teach this class." I was like, all right, cool. So we went, and at that time, Crunch is now a gigantic chain of gyms. At that time, it was privately owned. It had 2 locations, and one was only like a group fitness studio. The owner was in every day looking at everything. He was a former Wall Street guy, and he was just interested in doing innovative group fitness and aerobics classes. So we went and started teaching what they marketed as kickboxing classes. And they let us do whatever we want. It was amazing.
What type of people, what students attend that time?
It's people that you would expect to find at aerobics gym in Manhattan. It was a lot of
office people, office ladies.
A lot of women, students, all like the cool thing about New York, which I still appreciate being here, is your students come from all walks of life. I mean, we had students, stockbrokers, bartenders, creatives, whatever, restaurant people, everything, all walks of life, all ages. So we started teaching this, as a fitness thing, recreationally. Some people liked it so much that they wanted to actually compete. And so Doug Levine, who was at that time the owner of Crunch, he let us do what we want, which was amazing. So we were training people at a commercial gym. They put a ring in for us, bags in for us. We were sparring, training people to fight. We started sending fighters all over the place. So I just kind of fell into that accidentally. Edge was the head coach, but San and I were there a lot, developing people under him. So yeah, that's how, accidentally. Yeah.
Are there any things that when you become a coach, especially coaching people to become, fighter, actual fight, are there things that you specifically want them to learn and that at the time, when you were fighting, that you think it's missing, or it's just different mentality to go from a fighter to a coach? Like, are there anything you brought with you, or are there anything that you wanted to be more special when you're teaching?
Yeah. I mean, in terms of actual mechanics, you want everyone to, at least we do, and we've been told this is something that our gym has a reputation for, you want everyone to be technically proficient. So you spend a lot of time developing basics. And the better people get at that, the better they get everything else. The big thing I learned as a coach, and it actually took me an embarrassingly long amount of time, and I still struggle with it a little bit, is you can't assume that people are going to know what you want if you don't tell them what you want. Because of the environment that I had training, we had a small group, we were all really motivated. Edge had his other job, So if he said, hey, you have a fight on such and such a date, he knew we were going to be ready for it. We set our own schedule. We made sure we do what we needed to do. You can't assume that with most people. They need a little more direction. And sometimes I would get, absolutely annoyed. I'm like, I told you had a fight. Why are you not, well, and then people would be like, well, tell me what to do, So over time, I've realized that people can't read your mind. They could use some direction. And also, there's a tremendous amount of misinformation about what's important for a fighter, what's important for anyone training in a martial art. Because let's face it, most people who train martial arts of any sort, even Muay Thai, don't actually fight. It's, like 1%, 2%, right? Everybody else trains because, they want to do it. But especially now that people can see things on the internet or...
Yeah, let's talk about that. Really, I want to know myself, like what it is that you think is true. You definitely need to do that. And what is this is a myth. It's just, for internet lights. So can you talk about that?
Sure. So the first thing is that Muay Thai is not MMA and MMA is not Muay Thai. So when you watch some guys in a cage who actually their main background is in grappling and they're secondarily strikers, then maybe they're not the people you want to emulate to learn the tools for your striking art. That's the first thing. Second thing is that just because you see someone who is an elite fighter, because now you can watch the fights from Arjan, you can get everything online now. Yeah, everything. Just because you see someone who's been doing this for 20 years since they were a kid, hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of repetitions, pull something off, doesn't mean that's necessarily something you should be working on.
Is that why like a good coach or good trainer comes in, right? They can see this is within your ability, or you have longer arms, or you are quicker on your feet, then they point out, that's your assets. You should develop that rather than copy someone else.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and there are some physical attributes that can contribute to a fighter's style, but also it has a lot to do with kind of like mental state too. Mentally, I was always a counter fighter. I wasn't an aggressive fighter. I was technical, and I would look for counters. And that doesn't necessarily have to do with my size. It's just the way my head works. So what you can do is see what somebody's proclivities are and try and make that their strengths.
So you observe that person, whatever personality that they have. Like, is mindset something that can be taught, or it's just you have it in you or you don't have it in you?
anyone can be taught the martial art. Anyone. And I love to teach everyone. Anyone who wants to learn, I'm excited to teach them how to do it. Especially like if you take somebody, say, who isn't terribly athletic, right? Like you pick a guy or a woman and you're like, I especially enjoy to see a woman come out of a shell, like, because a lot of times they feel like they're not allowed to hit things. Mm-hmm. And then they suddenly are good and they're hitting things and you can kind of see this light. That's fantastic. Or you have, say, a guy who, he's like one of those guys who they used to say like, oh, he's got 2 left feet, right? And, you know, he's tripping on himself and he can't do it. And over time you watch him and okay, he's never going to be, you know, a world champion, right? But he's doing the art and he's doing it well. And that's very rewarding, actually. I really enjoy that. That's actually more exciting to me than taking someone who, you know, has lots of innate talent and skill and, you know, making them good. I mean, yeah, they're going to be good no matter what. They could train with me or anybody else and they're going to be good. But you take somebody who's really struggling and make them better, and see like the confidence and the joy it brings them, that's pretty rewarding. Yeah.
How do you normally encourage them to try something new? You know, using the lady, right? So maybe afraid to get hit or to hit something. So like in the first few lessons, right? So how do you actually have them step out of their comfort zone?
Yeah, so part of it is just some familiarity. The longer they do it, the more they realize it's okay. And another is saying straight up, you can hit me. That's what we do here. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to break and it's okay. And then you can see them start to relax and have fun with it. It's fun. It really is. It's fun to hit stuff in an acceptable, constructive sort of environment. Yeah.
Okay. So what else do you think the public is misinformed about, you know, fighter training? Like you mentioned you do 2 sessions, right? You do 6 days a week. I would assume that people who do it recreationally, or even if they decided to do a fight, they don't really have the time luxury to do that. Like, how do you balance it to get the most out of them with the amount of time that they have?
Right. Yeah. A recreational person is not going to do 2-a-days like that. And if they're able to train every day, 5 or 6 days a week, just to train, you know, hour, maybe an hour and a half, then they're going to advance and they're going to enjoy it. They're going to have fun. And if they can fit that in their schedule with, you know, some people between jobs and families and life, that's a lot. For other people, they have more time and it's not. If someone's interested in fighting, they need to figure out how to make that work. Because if you don't prepare like that, then you're not going to be ready for the fight. But those are 2 very different scenarios. Yeah.
Like after seeing and training so many people, you know, in your career, how do you see that someone not breaking through because of their mindset versus maybe their condition not allowing them to do the things that they wanted to do? Like, can you tell already when looking at a person?
You can tell when someone is not fighting fit. That reveals itself very quickly. Mm-hmm. What you can't tell is if someone is going to be a good fighter or not. You can see if they have the technical skills. After a little bit of time working with them, you can see if they have the discipline for the training, and that's very important. But then there's like this kind of like amorphous, what happens to them under pressure sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like probably any coach you talk to can tell you about somebody who's amazing in the gym, right? They're talented, they're gifted, they're quick, they're athletic, they pick it up like a sponge. They're playing with everybody and sparring like it's a joke. And then you put them in an actual fight and they just crumble, right? Or alternatively, somebody in the gym is okay. You know, they work hard, but they're not that gifted. And you put them in and you're like, whoa, who is that? Training and fighting are different things. Not everybody is a fighter.
Yeah.
And
can that be learned, or it's just the person naturally, he or she is that way?
Yeah. So you can train technique. You can design strength and conditioning programming. But in my experience, someone who, the Thais call it Jai, good heart, right? If they don't have the heart for it, then they don't have the heart for it.
So that can be taught. Like you either have it or you don't have it.
I'm not saying it can't be taught. I'm saying that in my experience, I've not been able to do it and I haven't seen it done. But, you know, I'm sure it can be, just not by me. But that doesn't mean that person can't train and be a great teammate. Like we have a couple, have had a few fighters over the years who were as fighters. It wasn't really their thing, but they were phenomenal teammates, which is important. Surprisingly important for what is actually an individual sport, because you can't get yourself ready to fight. You need people to push you in training and help you in training and work with you in training. And there are people who aren't really cut out to fight, but they're phenomenal in helping other people get ready to fight.
That's interesting. In the individual sports like, you know, fighting, then there are actually a lot of teamwork involved. I think, you know, it's just a fighter is as good as his team.
Yeah. Yes. It's sometimes you'll see a fighter in a fight and the corner, his, you know, first and his seconds, his coach and his second, they just seem like they don't really know what they're doing. And you can see the effect that has on how the fighter is in the ring. He or she is not getting good advice in between. There's a lot of wasted time on the recovery period in between. There clearly hasn't been like an intentional sort of plan to get ready for the fight. And the better your teammates are, it's one of those, you know, rising tide lifts all boats, right? So again, that's how another situation where I lucked out. I had edge, and then we had other guys come in, and some other women come in, and everybody was pushing each other and getting better. So this one gets better, then this one gets better, then this one gets better, instead of just one person trying to be the king or queen of the ring, you know?
Yeah, that's nice. You know, you guys can help bring each other up, which is a good environment to be in.
Yeah, no, it's definitely better than one where somebody is acting like they're better than everybody else. That's true. Yeah.
You are a successful coach and you obviously have a great career fighting. You discover strength training. Let's talk about that. And, you know, tell me, how did you find out about kettlebell training?
Okay. So first thing is, when I was fighting, I tried to find out what I could about strength training because I was trying to get better at it all the time. Most of strength training in the United States has a bodybuilding orientation, particularly at that time. Late 90s, early 2000s. So what I was able to find out wasn't really about strength training. It was more like about bodybuilding and getting
like
strong.
Rocky and Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, exactly, right? Or and some, you know, you have well-intentioned people at the gym you're at saying, "Oh, I can help you get stronger, bigger, whatever." But the problem is, combat sports are set up by weight class for a reason. So you need to walk that line between getting stronger and getting bigger. And if you are going to get bigger, you need to be aware of that and make sure that's what you're looking to do. So then when we opened our school, 5 Points Academy, most of our students were recreational fighters. Recreational athletes. They're training because they wanted to be fit, because it was fun. They wanted to do it. And, you know, and then a few people who wanted to fight. I'm training those people. And by that point, I had been fighting for about 8, 9, maybe 10 years. And I was a mess. Like physically myself, I was a mess.
From the injuries and from fighting?
So part of that was there was no real attention paid by me or anyone around me to proper recovery from injury. Look, it's a sport where you will get hurt. I mean, at a certain level, it's going to happen. I broke my hand multiple times. That's a very common injury for striking art. I had broken ribs. I had a fractured iliac crest, and all those things because of my own personal drive. I had scars. You know, I just wanted to get back to training as quickly as I could. So then you're training around and compensating, and then things aren't great. And the posture of the sport is not great for everyday life, right? You have rounded shoulders, hunched over, which is not a great way to stand. There's a lot of repetition. I don't know how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of strikes I've thrown in a particular direction now. So, I had compensation issues, I had fascia issues, I had injuries that hadn't healed properly. I had been living in the posture of my sport for years. So things hurt. Like I hurt, my hands hurt, my shoulders hurt. It hurt me to train, which really bothered me because I love to train. And I'm telling people to do this activity because it's amazing and I love it and you're going to love it too. And that just made me feel kind of bad about me, like I was not being totally honest with them. We had some independent trainers at our gym. One day this guy came in lugging these cannonball looking things. And I said, hey, what are those? And he said, they're kettlebells. And I said, what's up with that? So
What year was that?
That was 2006.
Okay.
Maybe 2007. Yeah. So he took me through some things and he taught me some stuff. And it was great. So for kettlebell training, right, there's a lot of crossover that's apparent to anybody who does any sort of martial art. You have tension and relaxation, you have these quick movements, you have lockouts, and it's a very visceral sort of satisfying return. You're doing it and you're feeling it and you're like, wow, I recognize these kind of movements. This is great. And he said, if you're really interested in this, you need to check out this guy, Pavel. So I went to a certification that Pavel's organization was offering in Southern California in the summer, outside on the practice football field at USC. It was hot and it was humid. My technique was crap. The teaching at that point was still in its infancy. Mm-hmm. So things.
How long did you train before attending that certification?
Probably like 5 or 6 months.
Wow.
So I did the certification, and me and many others, not just me, because of the humidity and the state of how things were taught, and it was a lot of hours. It was 3 full days. Anyway, people's hands were shot, ripped, shredded, bleeding, whatever. You hurt, you were sore. And at the end, I passed this cert, and I had learned a lot, and I felt great, and I had physical pain. I was like, wow, this is just like a fight. This is amazing. So I sent an email to Pavel. I said, hey, I got to tell you, this was fantastic. I said, but I kind of feel that letdown you get after a big fight because, you've worked hard and then there's this kind of emotional dump. And he goes, just keep practicing. And I went, wow, that's amazing advice because that's just like you do with Muay Thai. You just keep trying to get better. So I did. And what I realized accidentally is that things started feeling better. It's not like I was doing dedicated PT or trying to address certain things, but I could move better. Things stopped hurting. I was strong. I could practice my art the way I wanted to again. And I went, wow, there's really something to this. So I went to the next cert and then another one. And I've just stayed with the system so that was 2007 or 2008. So, 16, 18 years. Is that right? It can't be that long. 12, 14 years. God, that's long enough. 14 years at this point. Just learning everything I can because it's helped me and it's helped my fighters and it's helped my my recreational students. Mm-hmm. I've had perimenopausal and menopausal women get this thing called, it can happen to other people, but they get it in an inordinate amount called frozen shoulder. It's like this medical mystery, right? They go to a doctor and the doctor says, yeah, you got frozen shoulder. It'll pass. Yeah, but in the meantime, the women can't lift their arms, higher than here and it hurts. They can't put stuff on a shelf. They can't hold a kid, whatever. So I used what I learned through Pavel and this guy, John Ingham, who's also an instructor for the organization. And I got this woman to where she couldn't lift her hand above her waist to where she could lift it above her head without pain. She got her mobility back. She got her strength back. And the lady cried. That you get if you do that once, you're like, wow, this is amazing. There's something to it. So, and there's just a lot of stories that I have.
Mind if I ask you what exercise you prescribe for the lady to do for shoulders to get better?
There's a master instructor for Pavel's organization, StrongFirst, named John Engum. And he does a sister teaching thing called flexible steel, which is a lot of loaded stretching and some other little tweaks to the body. So, and treating the body like a whole. So actually, when we worked on her shoulder, we didn't get to her shoulder until like half an hour in. We started down at her toes, and you just start strengthening and loosening things as you go. And then once we got the mobility back, we just concentrate on things like bottom part of a get up and things like that to keep it strong. Kettlebell arm bars, you know, and I've been training that lady for 20 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. And, you know, she's in great shape. For fighters, it's a great way to get people to be better strikers and less prone to injury.
Let's talk about that. And using you as an example, Steve, if you don't mind. So you were saying before you got into kettlebell, you were hurting from all the injuries, all the things that happened to you. And then when you start doing kettlebell, I would assume that you were doing swings, get up, and slowly build up to the more advanced technique. Like how did the body feel? Yeah, at that point doing this.
Yeah, it was amazing. So for a long time it hurt me to throw a jab. I couldn't throw a jab, which is ridiculous, right? You know, I'm long. I jab and front kick a lot. I couldn't throw a jab. And after I had been consistently training, and it's not even all that long, it's a few months, I'm like, wow, I can throw a jab. I can throw a hook. My hips don't hurt when I kick. It happens fast, and it happens without you realizing it or trying to do it. Yeah, it's great.
Just by kettlebell, or you put in some mobility?
No, so originally, all my training was kettlebell stuff, and for years. And over the years, as Pavel and StrongFirst have done more certifications, I learned the barbell and body weight, and I had that's not true. I had done some bodybuilding stuff with barbell, but I had no real knowledge of barbell, but how to properly execute deadlift, bench, military press, different squat variations. Those also have been useful for giving me more tools to work with. We had a woman who fought, there's a big tournament every year, biggest tournament in North America called the TBA Muay Thai Expo. It's in Des Moines, Iowa, every year. Over 1,000 competitors. I have a woman who fights for us, who also happens to be a teacher at Harvard, which is interesting.
Wow. Okay.
She's a really interesting woman. So she came to us. She said, "Hey, I want to try and do this tournament." I was like, "Great." She's tiny, and I mean tiny, like sub 100 pounds tiny. So we went. There was no one in her weight class, so she had to fight up. She got to finals, lost in finals, fighting somebody 2 weight classes bigger than her.
Wow.
So she was great. But then we got back and she said, I feel like I need to get bigger. And I went, you know what? In this case, I would say you do. So for her, we started with kettlebell, a lot of long cycle, like clean and jerk sort of things. And then we transitioned to barbell exercises because we wanted to put a little mass onto her. And we wanted to get her stronger. We put some weight on her, not a lot, she's tiny, but now she's over 100 pounds. And she's like an ant. She's just so ridiculously strong. So we went back to the tournament. She had to fight 1, 2, 3 times through, still bigger than her, but only one weight class bigger there, and she won. So it's like, and she's also not young. She's 40, I mean, she's young compared to me, but not young, 40-some years old. So she had these people coming up to her who she had fought, going, you know, we thought you were old and small and we were gonna like kill you and you just smashed us. So that's something that I would not have been able to do for her without the knowledge I got from the organization, from Pavel.
So many questions I want to ask you as a follow-up. So you are in the camp that with the right amount of strength training, you're all for it. Because I know from watching some of the older video, for Thai fighter, they're skinny, they're lean, right? But now I watched some of the Thai fight recently from like one championship.
Yep.
They're actually more muscular. Like, do you notice? Like, is it the trend, or do they recognize that being bigger, not bigger, but stronger has its own advantage?
Yes. Historically, martial artists, boxers, Thai fighters, they had trained themselves fit. And there was this myth that if you did, weight training, strength training, it was going to make you slow and stiff and all that, which if you're training to be like a bodybuilder or something, that's certainly true. But if you're training properly, then it's just an aid, right? It can make you stronger without making you bigger. It can increase your range of motion. It can make you stronger in those, at the end of those ranges of motion. And I think it's definitely true that if you watch the larger promotions now, like One or Seminar World Series or any of those, you'll see that, they are definite. And you'll see clips from camps now because everybody puts everything up on Instagram and YouTube. Sometimes the training is ridiculous, stuff that they've seen on YouTube University and they're doing it. But overall, definitely there's an awareness that strength training has an important role in combat sports.
Yeah, but I think you also mentioned during our conversation before that, some of the competitive athletes can be too competitive in the weight room. They forgot that they are fighter, right? Yeah. But then when they go to the weight room, they maybe saw a guy doing more than they can do. So they get competitive. Like, how would you hold them back?
Right.
Like if they try to do too much?
So that's a coach's job, right? Because you actually want an athlete like that who wants to be the best and wants to be the strongest, right? So that's great. But you need to walk this line where that strength training is helping and not hindering their actual sport. It's supposed to be complementary, not, in opposition to it. So the answer to that is to follow the program, right? So if you lay out a sensible program where it says, look, this day you're doing these exercises at these weights, these reps with these rests, and that's it, right? That's the end of story. I know that, you feel like you should be able to deadlift more than that guy, but that guy doesn't have to fight. So it's different. That's the coach's job to rein them back. And the way to do it is to follow a sensible program. Yeah.
I know this is a big question and a lot of what if, it depends type of answer, but asking you anyway, right? If a fighter wanted to be better, they already have a demanding schedule for the technical skills and the conditional schedule. What might be one effective strength program, and what would that look like?
Sure. You can get a fighter significantly stronger and better with just swings and get-ups. If kettlebells are what you have at hand, or also you'll find different people gravitate to different modalities, right? Like some people like bells, some people like barbell. But if you do swings and get-ups with somebody, they're gold. Twice a week, you're good to go. You could do the same thing with deadlift and pull-up. Twice a week, done. Clean and jerk, 2, maybe 3 times a week, done. And not a long session, right? Like, 30 minutes. That's plenty for a fighter. Yeah.
So you make it simple. It's just is that the entirety for the strength training, or do you have other things sprinkled to them as well? Or do they just focus on swings and get-ups?
So if what you're trying to do is allow someone with limits on their time to put sensible, useful strength training in that's not going to interfere with their skill training and their technical training, then that's plenty. Yeah.
Strengths is relatively easier to learn than get-ups, and obviously both of that is easier than clean and jerk. So depending on how much time they have, so they will be taught the skill first, and then they will be prescribed, and then they could probably do it on their own, right? So
absolutely. Once they know how to do the lifts properly, then, and I have plenty of my students who do that, we just keep a shared note where they have their program, and the day they do it, they put the date, and the reps and the weight, and then I can track what they're doing. And if we need to make any adjustments, we do.
Would that be the first common sets of exercise you prescribe if some of the fighter are having injuries, you try to build them back? Would it still be swings and get up to start?
So it depends on the injury. I had a student with a ACL reconstruction. We didn't start her with swings, but once she was able to do swings, we got them because they're a huge bang for your buck exercise. Same thing if somebody is recovering from a shoulder sort of issue, then you might not do an entire get up, but you could certainly do the first part of the get up, and that's just going to help with it. So sometimes you have to tweak things until people get up to speed, but you can always find a way. Yeah.
From your point of view, when you mentioned that you do swings and get up, and then it stops hurting. So what do you think changed that makes you move better? And then, I will assume that you could throw your jab right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So funny story. I retired when I was 36 or something like that. And then I had a chance after I'd been training for a number of years to have a one-off. I got an opportunity for a fight when I was 49 years old, which the hardest part of that was the training for me because, I had a family and I have the business and I have my own students. So you had to make time to train. But the fight itself might have been the easiest fight I ever had. Just in terms of my own actual readiness and the way I felt. I was stronger, faster, more powerful than I'd ever been when I was younger. It was crazy. And that's all because of putting in the additional strength training. It's amazing what a difference it makes.
Yeah. Last question I have, and you actually helped StrongFirst develop a combat course along with Ronen, Katz, and Benny Meyer. Can you talk about that, and what was the idea putting together like a structured training for combat sports athletes?
Sure. I'd say it's more fair to say that Benny and Ronen developed it, and they were kind enough to include me in teaching it. But the point of it was basically what we were just talking about, that there is a very clear crossover and recognition for anybody who does fighting, whether it's grappling or striking, between fundamental kettlebell exercises and the martial art itself. So that program would take something like a swing, you'd break it down and you would do swings, and then you'd move into striking drills. You would do get-ups and move into grappling drills. So it showed this clear sort of connection and immediate sort of payoff between the exercise and the technique. I think it was really well put together. Benny and Ronen are both very smart. They have long experience both practicing and teaching martial arts and military and security operators, and they also now experience with StrongFirst. And it was a smart workshop. I think in the end, there were 2 or 3 in the United States and 1 maybe in Poland. And they were all really well received. And then, COVID and the world changed, and there we go.
Steve, for listener who wanted to find out more about your work and then maybe find out more about 5 Point Academy, what would be a good way to reach out to you?
Sure. So you can always go to our website, which is academy5points.com. And that's everything spelled out, Academy 5 Points. Or you can check out our Instagram, 5 Points Academy. We're pretty good about posting about fights, guest instructors we have at the gym, things that are going on. So yeah, either one of those. And if you're in New York, please come see us. We're downtown in Chinatown, near all the subway lines. Come and see us and train. Yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for coming on today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, Swire.
Thank you.
Bye now.